What's up, everybody? How's it going tonight? Well, it's night here anyway. Hope you're all doing well. This video really is, I'm going to do my best not to insult anybody, but I'm sure I will. It's just the way it is. When you're surrounded by stupidity, you can't help. I mean, you can choose to opt out of it and just keep your mouth shut and not speak about dumb people and dumb things, but that's not the person I am. You know, you might think that I'm a pretty passive, laid-back guy. I don't attack people personally for their beliefs, their views, or their claims, but there are certain people in the past that I have talked about, of course. You know, I've made videos about random people like Alex Jones or that guy Tom Palladino with the whole scalar energy thing, which is kind of partially the influence for why I'm making this video. I actually got an email this morning from sometimes I get emails from random videos somebody came across on YouTube, and they'll say, I saw this video and I just wanted to let you know my experience with this. And I've actually got 2 or 3 lately about this guy, Tom Palladino, who sells this, well, I made a video about it, scalar energy. He claims you send him a photograph of yourself, he puts it in this machine, and it sends out signals that heal you of all the diseases and assembles, I think, 186 nutrients in the body. So, bold claims, of course, but the people who have defended this device and defended this man, you can tell that they're obviously either experiencing placebo or they were sent over by him, because there's some very long comments about how great this machine is and how great this and it always goes back to quoting people like Tesla. There's always these keywords, you know, and these, ooh, wow, Tesla invented it, it must be amazing. Now I guess the reason why I bring these things up, and I like debunking things as much as I hate it, because I don't want people to believe, you know, get the idea that that nothing works and that everybody's lying to them. But there are enough people out there who are trying to bullshit you to where you should be aware of it. I like to see justice done. I like to see people who are bullshitting and lying to make money to get theirs in one way or another. I can't help it. That's just who I am. And I think that maybe it's more of a male trait, but you know, earlier, for example, I was watching instant karma videos, and I just love him. I don't watch them that often, but whenever one comes on, I'm just like, ha ha, you got what you deserved, you know? Like, guy cutting off everybody in traffic and then he smashes his car, or, you know, that kind of stuff. And I think, well, why is it that I get so much satisfaction out of that? And it's because in society, we have to play by certain rules. We don't have to play by those rules, but if we don't, then we're going to be ridiculed, we're going to be laughed at, we're going to be punished in one way or another. You can't get around that. Without that, we have anarchy and chaos. And in no positive way either. I'm not talking about some... Don't get on me about, oh no, anarchy actually means this. You know the point I'm making. So, I like seeing people, of course, you know, get justice, if you will, because most of us are playing a pretty fair game out there. And so, if we're not out committing crimes, then when we see others who do, and then, you know, for example, this morning I watched one where somebody stops, and this is the time of year where this happens a lot. She stops her car and jumps out and runs up to somebody's porch to steal their packages. And she takes about 3 steps to run out across the lawn, and she slips and breaks her leg. And so she's laying there in the yard, the packages are out there, and her fat-ass husband has to come out there and help lift her up and carry her back to the car. And all I can think of is, fuck you people. You trashy motherfuckers. And there's no justification for it. I don't care if you're poor. I don't care what your life situation was. It gets to the point where when you're stealing from other people, you're going to get slapped the fuck down, one way or another. And I'd love to see somebody do it. I can't deny that. I'm not a violent person, so of course I don't, you know, condone beating people up over things like stealing. That's not what I mean. But rather, instant karma is beautiful to watch. Let's just put it that way. So, when it comes to people who are not necessarily blatantly stealing packages from your porch, but rather slowly putting this idea in your head that they can heal you of all of your problems, and all you have to do is make payments to them every month. all, you know, it comes down to caveat emptor, or buyer beware. But I don't buy that one, because a lot of people are not aware. And so I feel like it's my obligation, and others who expose bullshit, to do so for those who are not aware of the bullshit. A channel I came across the other day that I hadn't seen in a long time was Thunderfoot, and I remember that he kind of rubbed me the wrong way years ago, so I hadn't really seen his channel in a while, but he did one recently, you know, exposing some of these, well, he loves doing the flat earth expose kind of thing, but he was talking about these devices and machines that had been, you know, invented and crowdfunded that aren't going to go anywhere because the physics or the math doesn't work out, or they're just plain bullshit. And for the average consumer, you hear about this device and you think, that sounds good. And a good example is the SCIO, S-C-I-O. It was a device that was supposed to be a handheld spectrometer that you could put up to fruit or vegetables. It would tell you the, you know, basically the bricks content, sugar content, what's in it, you know. Kind of an all-in-one, like, molecular scanner, I guess. And most of us don't understand how these things work. So I was excited when I thought, I'll get me one of these, you know, so I can scan kratom and know how strong it is. And I knew at that time that you would still have to, it was a crowd-supported platform of ingredients, or rather, it has to be programmed in. And you can't just scan it and have it tell you what something is. First, that has to be programmed into the parameters. And they didn't have a database, so it was going to have to be created by the people. Long story short, it's, you know, it's a flop, and I'm glad I didn't buy one. But he did a video about that, and I thought, you know, back then I was excited about it. And when you get excited about something and you think it works, you're willing to defend it. You're willing to make it work in your mind, you know. And even when I'm confronted with somebody saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, this thing that you think is true actually isn't," even you know, it's hard not to defend your point of view, but if the person's right, it's just the way it is. I mean, you have to consider that. One thing I've realized is that real information takes time. To really gain insight into how things operate and work, it takes time, but people want instant truth. So they want to be able to turn on a YouTube video and say, "Oh, how do I heal my cancer?" Or, "How do I fix this monetary problem I have?" Or, "Which is the best faith?" And there's plenty of clickbait for that. There's sound bites everywhere. Everybody wants to tell you the quickest way, and usually it's through your wallet into their hands. And basically what happens is somebody comes up with a claim, and then somebody else repeats it, and it gets repeated enough times to where somebody who is higher in stature repeats it. I guess I have a perfect example of today that happened. I watch a channel called Suspicious Observer, and I've been watching him for several years. And he does videos on the sun and what's going on with the weather and whatnot. And he did one about the potential catastrophe. He was mentioning that today in a video, the one 12,000 years ago, and talking about this mammoth that was found with, supposedly with frozen from 12,000 years ago, frozen with food still in its stomach and buttercup flowers still in its mouth. And he repeated this in the video, and I thought, wow, I've heard that a lot too. I better do more research. In the end, I find out that it was blown out of proportion, and from what I understand, it wasn't buttercups, but rather some kind of buttercup seeds that were found in the stomach, and pollen was found in the mouth, around the teeth. So they're using that as a theory that the animal died with flowers fresh in its mouth and has been frozen ever since, so that was because of a major Earth catastrophe at that time, where it quickly dropped below, 150 below zero and stayed that way. Well, it's possible, but we're missing the main part, which is that he wasn't found with buttercups in his mouth. This was in 1901. So anyway, these stories get repeated over and over. This kind of same thing happens with Tesla. We hear that Tesla invented all these amazing things, and he was such a genius, and of course he was. I mean, the guy was an amazing inventor, and he was a very good thinker. But he, as far as his devices and people replicating them to satisfaction, there's a lot more speculation than reality. Of course, they work. Yeah, you can produce electricity locally to, power devices wirelessly. That's really the main thing people talk about. But, the thing they didn't tell you is that you have to have one on every single block of every neighborhood, and that there's no way to send out electricity 10 miles down the road with with one tower sitting here. if it is possible, maybe it is, but my point is that a lot of people on YouTube turn Tesla into some god, and therefore say, well, if I have an idea, then I can just throw the word Tesla in it and people will take me more seriously. So, like I said about real information takes time, and the simple, quick sound bites, just remember simple information is for simple people. And if we really want answers quickly, then we might as well just stick to, you know, celebrities and drama, because if we want to understand how devices work, how the body works, whether or not something we're taking or using is actually affecting us positively or not, we have to understand ourselves and the world around us. And there's plenty of people to take advantage of us for not knowing that. And we're all victims of it. I was a victim for a long time of, you know, all kinds of BS, quackery, and woo-woo bullshit half science. After I talked with enough people with enough of a response of, you know, calling me out on it by saying, look, you know, this would be nice to believe, but there's no evidence for it. If I don't have evidence to support my claims, then I change my mind. It's that simple. And I've changed my mind a lot in my life, but I pretty much remain consistent on certain points. And one of those is not to let people be taken advantage of or get taken advantage of myself. It's kind of like advertising. If you don't want to fall for advertising, you know, there's nothing wrong with looking at the pictures, but once you click purchase, then you've spent money. And if you believe that something says, oh, it's $100, but it's on sale for $75, and you say, I saved $25, no, you spent $75. And I believe that we get what we pay for, in a way, once we start to realize how to shop. And the same thing happens with the information we consume, just like the materials. You know, we can make it work if we understand enough of it. But really, if we're not expecting any miracles, then we'll be okay. And what I mean by that is not thinking that somebody else is going to solve our problems, because we look to authority and experts for solutions. And the more of an authority a person becomes on things, the more likely they are to hang on to that title and to not want to lose it. It's kind of like the guru who just wants to help teach people, but ends up telling them how to live their lives because he believes that he's truly got it all figured out. Or the politician who has good intentions when he goes into office, but then ends up just being a monster because he can't handle it. Or, you know, the CEO who wants to make an amazing company that can change the world and just ends up hoarding cash. You know, we all start off with good intentions, but we have to understand ourselves. So what, you know, one question, I guess, to ask when somebody's trying to sell you something or they're trying to convince you of something is, what does the person have to lose, but also what do they have to offer? If a person has no real ethos, they have no, you know, proof behind their claims, you don't know who they are, they're just some random dude in his garage talking about science or whatnot without any actual links or evidence, then you can start to wonder whether or not it's realistic. But when it comes to somebody who's already famous, people tend to take their word for it. And so you get guys like Alex Jones spouting a bunch of bullshit, irrelevant nonsense, and then when it gets shut down, everybody's like, oh, censorship, censorship. Meanwhile, selling you his bullshit pills on the side. You know, I mean, I don't like to rile people up against others, and so that's why I seldom mention specific names, but there are times when it just has to be said. You know, like the video I made about Jordan Peterson a while back. You know, a bunch of sensitive Sallys got all upset, thinking that, oh, my hero Jordan, you're tearing into my hero Jordan. It's like, look, Jordan Peterson is basically a faux philosopher, in my opinion. He's giving you the basic entry-level idea of how to be a human, but throwing a bunch of nonsense bullshit in with it. And for somebody who doesn't know better, it seems like, oh my God, this guy has it all figured out. But it all comes down to the way a person carries themselves. I've met enough people in my life to know I can look at a person, I don't judge a book by its cover, but once you talk to a person for a few minutes, you can get a feel for them. And just because you may agree with a lot of their points doesn't mean you think that their points are going to work for you, I guess is the point. And so anyhow, the point is to ask yourself, what does this person have to gain or lose? And when a person gets to a certain point where they, let's say, go viral, and they end up having a lot of supporters, and they start making a lot of money, they fall into that route of having to stick with that. perfect example would be the UFO channels, who started out probably innocently interested in UFOs on YouTube. And then they got more subscribers and realized people are interested in this. And then they started out getting ad revenue. And then the next thing you know, they are making their income from talking about UFOs. So what do they have to do? Find any story. You know, they don't wait for something to happen. You go out and you find a story that looks like somebody reported something, and we'll just throw it up there and hope people believe it. It's garbage. It's fodder for the mind. And people are starting to figure this out too. With Alex Jones, for example, you know, he was just feeding constant bullshit. And then his actual viewership fell significantly right before he was terminated, because people were starting to figure it out. That this is a guy who's telling you that anybody he doesn't like is a baby rapist, and that they're out there to kill your children and line you up and shoot you in the head. And then he gets terminated for, you know, being abusive, and then everybody thinks, oh no, it's censorship. And the reason I mention that is because it goes along the lines of exposing bullshit. It's not censorship. It's getting rid of the crap in our society that we don't want. And when a majority of people vote against something and don't want it, no, I mean, your freedoms only extend to what your compatriots are going to tolerate, right? I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. It's kind of a open circle of things there, a lot of different, you know, aspects to it, but I don't like seeing people get lied to and sold bullshit quantum pendants that claim block EMF waves, any more than I like seeing a guy boasting that, you know, he's the greatest guy in the world and he can fix all your problems. Somebody like we have in our frickin' office right now. I mean, I haven't even mentioned Trump because he's so absurd. I'm hoping that his fans have actually seen his bullshit by now. But if they haven't, then, you know, and they're still stuck in that delusion, then all I can say is you're not willing to open your mind to your delusions, because I've grown to understand some of the positive things that have happened out of this election because I'm willing to look at both sides and look at all aspects. Try to be open-minded with everything, and I try to be the same way with people who are making bold claims about scientific things that they don't understand. And extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Just leave it at that. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.